Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over our swing trade close on the SoundHound Inc., or I guess you could call it SoundHound AI stock, and also our opening swing trade or positioning trade that we're going to take on Bitcoin that we've decided to take at, yes, you heard it right, more expensive valuations. So with that being said, let's get it. So as you guys can see on the charts here, we have SoundHound pulled up. This thing had an absolutely monstrous, just ridiculous move today. As you guys can see, pretty much from the opening bell here, this kind of grayed out area is the pre-market, but from the opening bell, this thing smashed from 380 a share all the way up to a peak of 595 a share. That's a 40% move in one day, or actually probably more than 40%. But it basically sold off into the close, which is standard. Most people that are day trading or swing trading this thing probably want to take profit before the market closes. And then as you guys can see, it pretty much went right back up into the after hours as of so far. So we did end up closing this early. We were thinking we were going to hold this till probably like $8 or $9. Our average cost basis is about 436. And we closed at roughly about $5.54 a share for a $540 profit. But again, we were thinking we were going to hold this to somewhere between $7 to about $10 for roughly about more or less roughly about a 2x gain. So we initially had just over 2K as our initial investment in this position. It is looking more like a long-term investment, but we're not really interested in investing in this right now because crypto is getting ready to moonshot. So as you guys can see on the, if we actually look, I think it's, no, not here. So we look under here, you guys can see that we're just currently sitting on the capital waiting for the settlement date to pass, and then we'll reposition this money into something else, which we're going to get into in a minute. But trying to see here. So you guys can see basically right here that we got filled earlier in this bottom right corner here. So it was a market fill, 554. You can see the date today. We could have gotten up the price a little bit higher, but once it started to pull back, we said, oh, okay, we'll get out. If we wanted to swing trade this thing later, we could always buy back in on the dip. Of course, it kind of depends on what the markets look like at the time that we choose to get in. But what we're going to do with that money instead is move that money over into crypto and dividend paying stocks with a 50-50 split, which we're again going to get into in a minute. So we take a look at SoundHound here. You guys can see that we have profited a total actually of just over $900. We did actually trade this same stock a couple of times last year when it was at cheaper valuations, roughly about $2-3 a share. And we unfortunately made the mistake of buying in at the top. This is why this has been our last swing trade we've been waiting on to go in the money. We've sat in this position for about 7 months. It happens. Nobody's perfect, but the reality is we still made money. That's what matters. So we got out, and we're going to move all of this buying power we have here elsewhere. We're going to get into that in a minute. So actually, let's go over SoundHound real quick before we get into Bitcoin. So take a look at SoundHound stock. We did post this on X. As you guys can see, we were kind of anticipating taking profit before this breakout because we saw this pattern and we're like, oh, okay, we'll just wait and see if it breaks out. Well, as you guys can see on the ascending triangle, this thing really, really broke out. I mean, this thing was just absolutely ridiculous. So NVIDIA came out and basically said, yeah, we have a small stake in SoundHound. Of course, it makes sense. NVIDIA is an AI company. SoundHound is an AI company. So it makes sense that NVIDIA had a stake in it. As a result of that, we saw this huge gap up here. You can see a 66% move. And then out of this ascending triangle, another massive 53% move. So why did this happen? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Earnings coming up, as you guys can see here. Earnings are just in a few days. That's one reason. Second reason is there was a lot of short interest on the stock for a very long time, as you guys can see here. Even though there was good earnings back here, kind of moved up a little bit, but then the shorts were basically like, nope, we're going to short the stock. that's how bears operate. Just so y'all know, generally speaking, when something's getting beat down, it has a lot of FUD, all that kind of stuff. They'll just jump in and start piling on leverage and be like, "Yeah, we're gonna dump the stock, and all you guys are gonna suck. We're gonna short this to zero." All that kind of stuff. So that's generally what happens. So I would say a combination of buying in before earnings, a massive short squeeze on stocks, and also long swing traders looking to trade this breakout pattern is probably a combination of the reasons why this thing squeezed so hard like it did. I would say realistically, if SoundHound is going to move up from here, if it gets a weekly confirmed close above these previous wicks here, so we'll take a look at that right now. You guys can see this thing got stopped short on this zone that we have here. But of course, if we remove this arrow here, you guys can see the candle. So if we get a candle close above this zone, I would say that this thing's going to go to at least probably around $8 a share. It could go as high as maybe, I don't know, I would say at least $10 or $11 a share. Or we're not really going to hold for that long because, again, we want to get more positions in crypto. But that's kind of just generally what's going on with SoundHound. So made a nice profit on that this morning. Nice juicy $540 in profit. So now we'll go back to BTC USD. So this is the BTC USD chart. So as you guys can see on the weekly time frame, we did squeeze out of that bullish pattern we had here. We are moving up. It does look like we are going to move up to this $60,000 level, or somewhere between 58 to 60,000. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here to our positions. As you guys can see, we have a relatively modest position in Bitcoin right now. Nothing big, but again, we're basically going to be position trading Bitcoin throughout the entire bull run. So that's kind of the goal here. Now, if what we think is going to happen actually happens, we kind of suspected this thing might break out of this falling wedge. It did actually break out, but we still thought it was overbought. So we were expecting a sell-off. Sell-off didn't happen. Whoops, is what it is. Trading is a game of probabilities. Nothing's perfect, but kind of what we're expecting from the prices that we got is, now that this thing has moved up, we're expecting somewhere between roughly about a 8-ish to about 9% move. We are expecting a pullback from here, so as soon as it gets into the zone, we may end up taking profit and then wait for Bitcoin to pull back to get back in for another position. We'll keep you guys updated on that as it moves along in time. So something that we wanted to show you guys here on the after hours on SoundHound, we were actually thinking about buying some shares before we even took profit on this on Robinhood, just to get into options, because the options premiums are extremely juicy right now. You can see that in the aftermarket hours, this thing is really just, I mean, we had like a small dump, but it didn't mean anything. We pretty much just went straight back up to where we were. But if we go over here to the options chain, we kind of wish that we had these shares on Robinhood instead of Webull initially, because we could have wrote 4 contracts on this. But if we go out to March 28th, which would be where we would put our next covered call on, you guys can see that the premiums for this thing are pretty juicy. So even if we put, a covered call for all the way up here at $8, it would still be pretty good. You get a $55 premium, and our shares were at $4.30 a share, so pretty much almost double our money and still get the premium, even if we get the shares called away. So now in terms of what we intend to do with the capital that we got from SoundHound, pretty much more or less what we're going to do. There's one of two things that we're going to do, okay? So we're going to do a 50-50 split. What we're going to do is we're going to put the first half of the money that we have out of that into either Coney and or MSTY. The answer for this is really simple. It's twofold. Number one, because the dividends are really good. Number two, because MSTY and Coney are massive Bitcoin and crypto exposures. As you guys know, when the crypto bull run starts popping off, there's going to be a lot more volatility, which is very, very good for options premium. Okay. And that's what these guys do. They do options. So the higher the volatility, the greater the premium. That means the more that we're going to get paid in dividends. The second piece of this is that the share price of the underlying stocks of these ETFs are going to go up, which means that the price of the ETFs are going to go up. So we'll make money from both ends, from both the dividends and the share price appreciation. So we're going to put either the money into both MSTY and Coney, or one or the other. Now, the other thing that we're considering doing with the second half is buying more shares of the Bitcoin miner stocks and writing covered calls on those, potentially as high as 6 months to a year out in terms of expiration, because we suspect roughly about a year from now is where the peak of Bitcoin is going to be, and then altcoins will start popping off. We're somewhere in there. And then we basically, once Bitcoin tops out, we get out of those trades, move that money plus the options premium from there over into the altcoins, because crypto is kind of like it has a cyclical pattern where it goes from Bitcoin to ETH and the large cap altcoins, then to the mid caps, low caps, micro caps, and so on. That's generally how crypto works. Okay. Or the second half that we might consider doing is we might load more money into Bitcoin on the dip, and also open up another position trade in Ethereum at slightly lower prices, I would say. We do have some Ethereum, but it's not on here. Okay, we have it stored somewhere else. But opening just a little bit more positioning into Bitcoin and Ethereum to, of course, acquire more Bitcoin and Ethereum as position traders going into the future. So we're going to do one of those two things with this. Not really sure which one yet. We'll decide when we get to it. But anyways, this is our swing trades on, or the swing trade close on the SoundHound AI stock, which we are still very bullish on going into the future, but we only ever really want to swing trade it. It's a bit risky to invest in something that's not profitable as a company yet, and I'm pretty sure SoundHound's not yet profitable in terms of revenue. Could be wrong, but last time I checked, they were not. Of course, that's me going on basically past information. It could have changed by now. We really don't know. Earnings is coming up, so we'll see. But it's still just a swing trade stock for me, nothing to own massively in. And to be honest, we have shares of the IWMY, which has exposure to the Russell, and the Russell 2000 has SoundHound in it. So we really don't need to own it for long-term investment. So there's that in our position trades in Bitcoin. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see y'all later. Peace.